Have you ever thought you've absolutely nailed a topic in revision, and then when it came to a test or exam, you're left completely blank when a question came up on it? This is super common, and the reason is you haven't revised it properly. You haven't done two things. Firstly, checked that you remember the knowledge, and secondly, checked that you understand what the knowledge is telling you. So in this video, we're going to go through 3 techniques of how to make sure you are exam ready and you're not left in the lurch for the actual day. Now, before we go into those 3 techniques, I just want to take a step back and look at the learning theory behind what I'm talking about. Now, part of the issue is that just note-taking and going over your notes is not enough when it comes to recapping information. It's not going to make sure that you're able to answer exams in that environment. Now, before we get stuck into those techniques, I want to take a step back and look at the learning theory about what I'm talking about. So to do this, I'm going to use an analogy that I use nearly every week, and this is making a chickpea curry. And every time I go to the shop and make a chickpea curry, I can never remember the spices that go into it. So what I do is look on my phone, maybe BBC Good Foods or something like that, and I look up the ingredients and recipe, and I find that I need to buy cumin and garam masala. And I think, great, I've learned it, I know this information, but actually I don't know this information. I will forget it next time when I order it in 2 weeks' time. I haven't remembered it. If I was asked to sit an exam on chickpea curry, I would bitterly fail the question when it came to spices because I haven't made sure that I'd revised it properly. What I've done is read it and passively taken in the information. This doesn't mean that I've learnt it, and doesn't mean that I could tell someone else how to make a chickpea curry. So what does this mean for you and GCSE and A level revision? So technique number 1, start doing past papers. Now, I say this with caution because past papers are used quite often wrongly. When I was a science teacher, I was seeing my students using it in the wrong way, and I just don't want you to do the same thing. So firstly, past papers are obviously a great way of practicing the exam and answering questions that are going to be similar to the ones that you're going to be answering on the actual day. And it's good because testing is one of the only ways to make sure that you understand the information that you've been revising before. It's putting it under a spotlight and will ultimately help you remember the information better. But I'm going to give you 3 tales of caution when it comes to past papers. Number 1, don't over-rely on past papers. Quite often the students I had only did past paper after past paper after past paper. This isn't meaning that you're covering all the information you need. You might only be covering, 60% of the information that you actually need for the exam. What it's doing is doing a spotlight check on certain random areas that could come up for the exam. You need to also be spending the majority of your time on note-taking, mind maps, cue cards, all of the other stuff we talked about in this video. So don't only be using past papers. Number 2, don't use up all your past papers too early. Make sure that you're spreading out those past papers over a period of time, because you don't want to do all of them and then have another 2 months where you've already used up all those resources. They're precious resources, past papers, because there's probably only 4 to 5 that are going to be readily available for you to use. And number 3, check that the past paper that you're using is of the right, firstly, syllabus, and secondly, exam board. Of course, if your teacher is providing you with a past paper, they're very likely to be giving you the correct past paper. However, if you're looking them up on the internet, make sure that you're firstly typing in the correct exam board. Maybe it's AQA, maybe it's OCR, maybe it's EdXL. Make sure you know which syllabus you're revising. And secondly, make sure that it's not an old type of past paper you're doing. So for instance, science has changed syllabus about 3-4 years ago now, and this means that there's lots of past papers that you could be doing available on the internet that will not help you at all because they're not covering the right type of questions in terms of style and content. So make sure when you're Googling it, type in the correct year and type in the correct exam board. Okay, on to technique number 2, which is create your own resource of questions. This should be something that you're doing throughout your revision period. So let's say I have just revised a topic and I've got a mind map. Let's say I've just done a mind map of tennis. Now what I want to do is, before I look at that mind map, write down everything that I can remember about tennis. I'm then going to look at the mind map, compare my notes that I've just brain dumped, and look for bits that I couldn't remember or couldn't understand. I'm then going to write down a list of questions that I'm going to look at maybe in 3 or 4 days' time and make sure that I can answer those questions when it comes to it. So taking a look at this mind map, let's say I couldn't remember the types of tennis court that were around the world. So I could write myself a question, name the 3 types of tennis court. Now this means when I come back to it in a few days' time, I already have a question that past me has made for myself and that is testing future me. This is really helpful because I can check that I understand that knowledge. Now one thing on this, make sure that it's the right type of question that you need to answer. So going back to my example, I could check for my knowledge retention by saying name the 3 types of tennis court, and then I could say clay, grass, and whatever the other one is, I can't remember right now. That would make sure that I could describe and recall that knowledge. But I might need to know more than that. If I do need to know more than that, I need to make sure I'm asking myself the right type of question. Let's say I needed to understand the differences between the tennis courts. I could write myself a question that would say, explain the difference of ball speed on the 3 different types of tennis court. That could easily be a longer 6-marker question or essay-based question on it. So make sure you're asking yourself the right type of questions that are going to make you prepared for the exam. And final way to make sure you understand and remember things is say it out loud to somebody. This for me is the one that I use nearly every day in my job. What I've learned about myself over the years when trying to remember things is that when someone explains it to me, I nearly every time don't fully understand what they said. So what I've started doing is repeating back what I think that they said to me. And normally I get it 70-80% right, but there's 30 to 20% that I haven't got right. I need to put that information into my own words so that my brain is making sure that I'm computing that information. And that leads us on to the final way for checking for knowledge, retention, and understanding, which is 3, say it out loud to someone. Something I've realized over the years when I'm trying to remember things is that I literally have to put the information that I've been given into my own words, otherwise I don't understand it. This is something that became very apparent when I became a teacher, because I might think I have a rough idea of the topic, but it wasn't until I was actually saying it out loud to the students that I was teaching that I could really make sure that I understood it properly. Explaining something to someone else is a really good way of making sure you fully understand it. So what I'd advise is, firstly, in revision sessions, go to your teacher and say it out loud what you think the answer is. Practice saying it so your brain starts working it out and piecing that information together. Secondly, start revising with a friend. Maybe there's someone who's struggling with a subject a little bit more than you are. So what you can do is sit down with them and teach them the information that they need to know. And this is not just going to be incredibly helpful for them, this is also going to be incredibly helpful for you. And then who knows, maybe they're going to be better at a different topic and then they can teach you and you've just found a new best friend. Okay, so those are 3 ways of making sure that you have revised things properly so you're not left in the lurch for the exam day. Firstly, past papers. Secondly, writing yourself questions. And thirdly, saying it out loud. So I hope this video has been helpful. As ever, please do comment if you have any other ways of checking for your understanding on the revision. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. Please do comment below if you have any other ways of making sure that you understand that content after you revised it. I'll be replying to every single comment and giving you tips and tricks. Until next time, see you later.